So this is our first lab, right? So this is our first lab. I have suggested a study schedule. Over here, we have 6 tasks. And you should, the first 2 tasks, right? So for set up your install and set up your environment and run PySpark, that's critical, right? So that's critical. And you must finish it, right? So before you move on, right? So therefore, you should really finish it by Wednesday, right? By Wednesday. And the remaining 2 tasks, you should finish it by Thursday, right? By Thursday, that's still essential, right? So then you can work on the task 5, which is an exercise. Try to finish it before Monday, because that's the time we are going to post a solution, right? Post a solution. And task 6 is for, or is optional, right? For those who really want to explore further, you can continue to work on many ideas I have suggested, right? So for online notebooks, right, when you see a hyperlink, right, so with some additional materials, right, so you should really click it and take a look what it is, right? You don't have to go through everything, but at least you know whether what it is, right? So in the future, when you need it, you can refer to it, right? So I have some suggested reading over here, right? So therefore, you can click it and see what it is like, right? So then in the future, when you need it, you can come back, right? So these are a few references. And this, of course, that's a source code, right? So it's good to refer to it, but you don't need to read it from beginning to the end, right? So there's some very important notes that I ask you to read before proceeding, right? So please read it, right? Please read it. The first one, right? So HPC is shared resources, right? So please be mindful. You can imagine it as a public, like buses or trains, right? So you can't request too much resources. And we also have some dedicated nodes reserved, right? So you can, from the below, you know how to use it, right? So, and this is very important, right? So please follow all the steps, right? Step by step without skipping, right? So we are skipping unless you are already an expert, right? Very confident in handling the problems, right? Because majority of the problem when we have running the physical lab, right? So I think majority, if not, it should be like 90% to 99% of the problems are basically students didn't follow all the steps, right? So if you skip some of the steps, you will run into problems, right? You will run into problems. Please, for the lab, right, follow each step one by one, right? So if you have something wrong, the first thing is not to ask for help or whatsoever. The first thing is to check, right? So check the procedures to see whether you have skipped any steps or any step has been not been done properly, right? So, right? So, as because we are using shared resources, right? So therefore, you should really make use of the good use of the online sessions, right? So, and try to fix problems early, right? So otherwise, it will be very tough when you close to the deadline, right? Because when you close to the deadline, there'll be like the demand for the resources will be increasing, right? So it'll be more difficult to get a node and so on, and it will make your life basically tougher, right? So first section is about connecting to HPC and the install, right? So therefore, again, you must connect to the VPN, right? So unless you are on the campus network, right? So of course, if you stay in the university accommodation, I think we have it, right? So there's some very good documentations by our RIC team, right? So please look at, consult that resources. You already have your account. The username is not your email account name, right? So it's your something like with a number in between, right? So so if you have login problems, right? So you can email me, right? So your username, check your VPN, whether your VPN, you need to let me have these 3 pieces of information, your username, the connection status of your VPN, right? So, and a screen capture of the error message, but do not send me your password, right? So for HPC specific problems, right? So connection or server error or whatsoever, I email this address, right? So please follow the instruction to use the SSH to connect, right? So that please follow these steps, right? So in mobile term, right, mobile X term, you can set it up, right? So rather than using it, and you can use the SSH, or you can save the session, right? So I will show you, I can show you in the online session, right? So there's some mobile X term tips for you, right? So you can save the host name and how to copy and how to paste, and you can drag your files, right? So and folder into the directory pane, right? So transfer files, right? So please follow the steps. So once you get in, logged in the HPC, please follow these steps one by one, right? So one by one, right? So and then you can create an environment and set up Spark. And after you are successful, you should see this splash, right? So if you cannot see this splash, that means something is wrong, right? So go back and check the procedure, check the steps, right? So you should, if you can see this, right? So that's a milestone, right? This is the first step. You can run Spark already, right? So that's you should get more familiar with HPC with command line, right? So there's some very good resources. You can take a look and learn some basic commands, and also learn how to transfer files to and from HPC, right? From your personal computer. And if you use Windows, right? So be careful of the line ending. If you edit it using a Windows editor, right? So text editor, your line ending may not be recognized by Linux, right? So that will be lead to an error, right? So for example, if you edit you create your script file in Windows, right? So you may have a problem running it. It may give you weird errors on Linux, right? So make sure you use a Unix compatible text editor if you use Windows, right? So, but you can directly edit it. You can edit the file using mobile Xterm, right? So that's some thing, right? So you can follow the instructions to install by yourself, right? So, but this is entirely optional, and I can only provide very limited support, right? So because, for example, I don't have Mac, and it may be some very specific problem. It's very difficult to debug and so on, right? So therefore, you should use HPC for is our recommended setting, right? Use the HPC. But if you want to try out, it's good to try out, right? For example, I have it on my personal computer, right? So you can try it out, right? So I give you some detailed instructions over here, right? So that's the installation. And after that, right, so you just run Spark and follow the steps here. And this task 2 is to test, right? So whether it's running, right? So if you have any problems, you will not get this result, right? But on the other hand, if you can install it successfully, you will have 1496, right? To see whether it's working, right? Whether it's working. And then section 3 is about example, right? So about the example, the log mining example, right? So firstly, you will do it. I also teach you some steps in creating directory and so on, and also how to download the course materials to your HPC data, right? So HPC space, right? You can use this to clone the directory to your directory. It can be a home directory or can be the data directory, right? So then, right, so this is what you need to do. Just follow the steps I have provided, right? So then you can do an interactive session to read the file, log file, and count it, right? Count the number of records, and also search like how many hosts from Japan, right? So how many Japan. And also next one is to write a self-contained application, .py file, and use Spark submit, right, to run the file. And then it should give you the result, right? But just note, be reminded that will be a very verbose output, right? So of information, right? Just you will get used to it, right? So then section 4 is about big data, right? About large log file, right? Large log file is impossible to manually analyze it, right? So even open it, right? So if you have problem. So in this case, right? So you will create a script, right? So process it, and then you will run your program in the batch mode, right? In the batch session, in batch mode. To do this, you need to create a script, right? Create a script. I covered that in the lecture. And then you do a Q sub, right? You do a Q sub, right? Just if you have problem here, right? So just make sure to check your directory, right? Whether you are in the correct directory, right? You are whether you are in the correct directory, right? So and it's the safest, right, to do this, right? So and then after that, you should have an output file. And then after you complete the first 5 tasks, first 4 tasks, right? So you can try to solve the exercise, right? So I have set for you, and we will provide a solution in the following Monday, right? So in the following Monday, and section 6 is for it's more challenging task for those who really want to explore further. Okay, that's all for the lab, and that's all for the first session, right? For our first week, it's very important, right? It's very important to follow the lab steps one step by one step to get your PySpark set up and your PySpark shell running, and go through those examples, right? So I have carefully prepared the example, right? So I try to go through the examples to get familiar with the file structure, right? So I think something I didn't explore is you should really go through the file directory to see what is there on the GitHub, right? So I have different folders for code, for HPC, for output, for data, right? So try to follow these good practices, right? So it will be a very different experience for most of you, right? So, but it's very useful, right? It's very useful. That's all. I will see you on Wednesday's online session. Please do come, right? Please do come to the session and get your questions ready, right? So that I can help you. Okay, see you on Wednesday. Okay, bye-bye.